The meeting will come to order. Paige, please call the roll.
Commissioner Baumgarten,
Here.
Commissioner Cochran,
Here.
Commissioner Conant, Commissioner Jawanda, Commissioner Munger, Commissioner Woughton,
Here.
Commissioner Ziegenmeier, Commissioner Baines,
Present.
Commissioner Elphick, Commissioner Espandola.
Thank you. You please join me in pledge of allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Motion, please, for the agenda. Regularly moved and seconded that the agenda be approved as presented. Any discussion? Those in favor will please vote aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those no. Okay.
Excuse me, can I get an abstention for the record? Could I abstain because I wasn't at the past meeting? Yes, please.
Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the May 13th meeting. Motion, please.
I'll make the motion.
Regularly moved and seconded that the minutes of the May 13th meeting be approved as presented. Any discussion? Those in favor, please vote aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those no. And we move down to the next item, which is the consent agenda. Motion, please.
Move to approve.
Regularly moved and seconded that the consent agenda be approved. Roll call, Page.
Commissioner Baumgarten,
Yes.
Commissioner Cochran,
Yes.
Commissioner Jawanda, Commissioner Woughton,
Yes.
Commissioner Baines.
Yes.
The consent agenda is approved. The next item on the list is the public hearing for the Newcomb Ranch annexation to the city. Is now open to the public.
I'll briefly present the staff report. You have on here all the landowners, a list of the landowners for the 221 acres.
John, can you turn on your mic, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll do that. And you just told me that I always forget to do that. So you have the staff report with the all the landowners for the 221.82 acre annexation to the city of Yuba City. And this is located all within the Bogue Stewart Master Plan area. And a few months ago, several months ago, I guess we did the sphere of influence for that. There was an environmental impact report prepared, a specific plan prepared for that. And so the annexation, I do want to point out that the annexation doesn't include an annexation or a detachment from CSAG. And the reason it doesn't is that there will be less revenue for fire protection if it's annexed into the city because apparently their ERAF rate is higher. I wasn't involved in the calcs, but I know Diana there was. And so that's the reason, is to keep more money for fire protection, especially in light of what you're reading in the grand jury report this year. So it's just incrementally, that's one of the issues. And so this annexation is kind of a change in the way we've been going because we've been detaching from CSAG for years. And now we've kind of changed that. And if anyone asks, the state made me do it when they approved this paying their obligations to pay the schools with local money. So the approval of, the next is the approval of the sphere amendment for the Hillsizer drainage, county drainage district. And that's going to be, we'll talk about that more in a little bit. And there's an amendment to the drainage boundary that we'll talk about that at the next meeting. So anyway, the city adopted a plan for services. It was quite a detailed plan for services that deals with water, wastewater, storm drainage, utilities, streets, police protection, fire protection, parks and rec. In preparing this, I went through the Bogue-Stewart Master Plan and our adopted sphere of influence and service review that we did, and in the environmental documentation. So then, and it's summarized in the report. We went through the policy analysis, and we do that with every application. There's certain factors that LAFCo is supposed to consider when we approve an annexation, and that begins on page 10. And, or actually, well, page 10 really. And we go through our policies and procedures. We go through compliance with our policies. We found no policy that was inconsistent with the proposed proposed to the Newcomb Ranch. So as based on that, the staff we recommend approval of the annexation, and I failed to mention that there is the city has a development agreement also, which is a very important part of making sure things happen when they're supposed to. And as part of the resolution that you'll be approving, is one of the exhibits is the tax exchange agreement the city and the county worked out for this. Actually, that tax sharing agreement works for all the annexations in the Bogue-Stewart Master Plan. This is just one of them. And we'll probably be using that tax sharing agreement multiple times, depending on the number of annexations that we have. So with that, I'm going to conclude my discussion.
Okay. The meeting is still open to the public. I don't see any public, so. Okay. Oh, we do have a public.
Hello, I'm Sean Menard with MHM Engineering. I represent the Newcomb Ranch owners on this project, and we've been working on this for
You want to turn it on?
They said it's on. Can you not hear? Oh, Sean Menard with MHM Engineering, 1204 East Street, Marysville. I represent the owners on this property, the Newcomb Ranch properties, which is about 160 acres of that 221 acres. We've also worked with the other property owners when we came up with this application. And this was part of the original application, these exact properties, when we originally submitted this project back in 2013 to the city of Yuba City. So we look forward to completion, and we've read the staff report, and we don't have any issues, but if you had any questions for us, we're here to answer those. All right, thank you.
Okay, any other public comments? Okay, we will now close the public hearing. Item number 5, Hillsizer Drainage District. John?
Through the chair,
Yes.
can we not make a motion at this time to approve that item? You're moving on to item 4. We're not done with you're moving on to item 5 already?
Okay. Okay, need a motion?
So move to approve.
Excuse me. You need to have a roll call vote, a motion and a second and a roll call vote on this resolution.
Need a second? Second. Reckon moved and seconded. Roll call, please, Paige.
Commissioner Boomgarden,
Let me think about this. Yes.
Yeah, right.
Commissioner Cochran,
Yes.
Commissioner Conan absent, Commissioner Jawanda? Yes. Commissioner Munger absent, Commissioner Wooten,
Yes.
Commissioner Ziegenmeyer absent, Commissioner Baines,
Yes.
Commissioner Elphick absent, Commissioner Esmandola absent.
Okay, the resolution is approved. Now we can go to the Hillsizer Drainage District. John?
This is a sphere of influence study and amendment for the Hillsizer County Drainage District. The County Drainage District Board has reviewed, they've passed a resolution approving the same sphere amendment and map that you have in this sphere of influence study. The purpose of this was these annexations or these developments within the Bogue-Stewart master plan area, most of them need to be in the Hillsizer County Drainage District for drainage. There's a few areas, for example, the one we did, the Newcomb Ranch, only 180 acres of the 220 acres, rounded off, is required to be in the Hillsizer Drainage District, because in the other parts of it, the drainage doesn't go in that direction. So you have a sphere of influence study here and a little bit of history of the district. And what we, based on this information, we're supposed to prepare, LAFCo is supposed to prepare written determinations with respect to proposed and planned land uses and present or probable need of public facilities, capacity of public facilities, and the existence of any social and economic communities of interest, which you have in the report, as well as a resolution that outlines the that provides those determinations, as well as to support this, the environmental documentation in the Bogue-Stewart Master Plan EIR. So you have the determinations, and you have a resolution before you and a recommendation for approval of this.
Okay, we need a motion to consider the resolution 2021-0005.
Second.
Reckon moved and seconded. Roll call, please, Paige.
Yes.
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 Thank you. The resolution is passed. Okay, we go to item number 6 on our agenda. Continue the public hearing until September, and then we'll go from there. Number 7 is review and discuss the grand jury's report regarding fire and emergency services. John?
Okay, I'm looking for a copy of the grand jury report here. The grand jury issued a report on fire service in the county, and it was an interesting report to read, but I wanted to just emphasize that the first of all, LAFCo is I don't know where it is here. LAFCo is preparing a sphere of influence and a service review for fire services within the county right now. And some of the findings, maybe it's on my computer. I just can't find it in all these papers. I had it here. Yeah, did you get a copy? I didn't get a copy of it. So, yeah, I'll just go through that. There's a few things I wanted to bring up.
There you go.
There's a map on page B3 that shows the fire service boundaries within the county, and the findings. Let's go through the findings. Is that the CSAF? There's a bunch of county service areas, and then there's some fire districts. Robbins, Nichols, a few others. And the CSAF is the only one of these that has a special tax. And that's nice, but it was a 1997 tax, and it's never been upgraded, up since then. So it's really low. If you look at the pie chart in here, the pie chart is not, it doesn't show that it's a very substantial amount of the revenue for the district. And in terms of that, it talks about the county not creating revenue streams and the county not having financial accounts for the districts and all that. I'm not going to get into that because I'm sure the auditor and the fire chief is going to do that. And there is one finding F5 that talk about Robbins being unresponsive. If any of you know any retired fire chiefs, Mark, they really do need help. And that was one of the items is that we were looking at. We tried Rich Webb over in Yuba County, but no, he's retired. And so we'll see what happens there. Lack of funding. Well, the thing is that you guys all remember, maybe some of you do, Prop 13. Prop 13 was approved by the voters. And what that did was limited the amount of tax that can be levied based on assessed value. And it was implemented by something called AB8, which we refer to these tax sharing agreements or AB8 agreements. But AB8 scrunched everything down and gave a percentage to every district and the county and schools and whatever. Well, what happens in 1976, if you had a very conservative district, you were deemed to be very conservative in perpetuity. You would always get a low AB8 amount. Well, a lot of these districts were very conservative, and besides that, there weren't the rules back then that there are today, which costs money to implement. So it's a tough nut to crack. The grand jury in some of its recommendations is that well, maybe I'm kind of reading between the lines here, is that the county finds some money for these guys. And there are some grants out there, some 3-year grants, but I believe the county isn't going to give up part of its general fund for this, but that's the county's business. Finding new revenue streams, the legislature authorized these special taxes that can be voted upon by the voters. And in Sutter County, since 1997, there hasn't been one passed. And they're hard to pass because they require a 2/3 vote. So as a result of that, you have lack of funding. You have these types of issues. One of the recommendations is that consolidation of districts occur, like the 3 CSAs. And I'm not sure how the dynamic of that would work out. And knowing that in the LAFCo rules, we can extend this 1997 tax if you annexed these other two CSAs. We're not talking about CSAG here, but if you annex those other CSAs into CSAF, that they can inherit that tax. But that might be very risky for the board to do that. The best way is to have the voters approve a special tax, and they talk about here that, well, the constituency need to be educated on why this is happening. And everybody's enjoying the lower Prop 13 tax rates, but fire districts have been one of the casualties, and with the legislature approving Prop 218 and the process to levy these special taxes, that's the avenue that districts should use. And some of the counties Some of the counties around here, some of the districts have done it. And those districts are a little bit better off. One thing I might mention about the 1997 tax, it didn't have any inflator in it. Usually you have an inflator goes up with the CPI, and this one doesn't. So that you're falling behind every year. So there is, we were asked to be an invited response, not a required response. And I know that the Board of Supervisors is going to have to respond to these. I assume it's John, the fire marshal, is going to provide the documentation. So, and actually the city council in Live Oak was asked to respond also. So anyway, we're working away on our service review part of it, but we're not, LAFCo isn't magic. The thought of having, the notion I thought of this, well, why doesn't LAFCo initiate this? The principal reason why it's not a good idea is, first of all, we don't have the budget to do this kind of a project. And also, the threshold for protests is much lower if LAFCO initiates it rather than the county. So that's 10%, which in the county it's 25%, which means the project could easily be killed if LAFCO, I guess the technical term is terminated if LAFCO were to initiate. I like the word killed better, but that's what happens. So anyway, it's a good read. There's some things in here that just what I saw is I'm sure the county will correct them on their review. I'll leave it up to them because we're not asked to do so. So at this point, I think I'm just going to stop and not say anything more.
Okay, thank you, John. Moving right along.
Oh, hold on. Through the chair?
Pardon?
Through the chair? May I ask a question?
Yes.
Thank you. So we each received as a LAFCo member an invitation to respond.
Right.
Is that an obligation? Because we also, Bob and I, for instance, also received one through the city, and I know the city will likely respond. Are we?
Yeah, that's a good question. Would you like us to put together a response? We have 90 days. So the September meeting, we could respond on behalf of LAFCO. But the city still has to respond from the city and the county from the county.
I think I was more, since it was personally addressed to me, is LAFCO going to respond on our behalf?
Only if you want me to. I'll provide a response for our September 9th meeting so that you can review it and we'll send it off. And that'll be within the 90 days.
Of the commission, but yeah.
Yeah, and maybe some of these things might, we might have the opportunity to flesh them out at that point. But we're not going to be speaking for the Board of Supervisors. It's really, or the City Council. It's really up to those entities to do this. And so I guess the idea is don't get the notion that LAFCO should do this because it's probably not a good idea.
So you'll re-agentize this and have a reply for the September meeting?
Yeah, I'll just have a grand jury response on there. We'll have a discussion,
Okay,
an
fine.
invited response.
Okay. Number 8 on our agenda is nominations for annual achievement awards from LAFCo. So if anyone has a nomination, give it to John and he can take it from there. Okay?
Nomination has to be through the commission. If someone wants to nominate someone, they would have to propose it as a motion and have it approved by the commission.
Oh, okay. Any nominations?
I don't have any. Oh.
I don't guess we can vote on one if we don't have a nomination. Okay. Now, number 9 on the agenda is our council's going to update us on this case.
Yes. I spoke to you about this case at the previous meeting, so I'm not going to repeat what I said, other than basically in that case, the Court of Appeal ruled that San Luis Obispo LAFCO could not enforce an indemnification agreement. because it was neither a contract nor was there statute.
Excuse me, Scott, can you use your mic, please?
The Court of Appeal ruled that the San Luis Obispo indemnification agreement could not be enforced because it was neither a contract, because it was not voluntary, nor was it statutorily authorized under Cortese Knox Hertzberg. The San Luis Obispo LAFCo sought review of that case by the California Supreme Court, and just recently the Supreme Court denied review. So that case is now the law of the state of California for now. And that means that our current indemnification agreements are unenforceable. And that, of course, means that if you get sued over an approval of a project, you would have to pay for it out of your own funds. You would not be able to look at the city or applicant to reimburse you. A number of LAFCOs have decided to take an approach that, while not perfect, might help, which is called a voluntary indemnification agreement. Under that agreement, we basically ask the applicant to agree to indemnify, and then LAFCO agrees that if they do get sued, they will consult with the applicant and they won't decide not to defend it without talking with the applicant. Because the one thing LAFCO can do is decide not to defend a case. That's in your discretionary power. So if you offer to limit that discretionary power somewhat in exchange for indemnification, that would be an enforceable contract because there's a quid pro quo and it's not mandatory on the applicant. So this is a proposal I would make to you. It's, again, going to be a voluntary agreement, so we can't force it on an applicant. But the worst that happens, they don't sign it, which is what would effectively happen now. Whereas I think some of them will sign it, and I think any agency, if you ever do get sued, which I think it would be very rare, but if you do, at that point we can go back to the agency and say, do you want to sign this agreement, or do you want to leave it entirely to our discretion whether we decide to fight this? And at that point, I think almost every agency faced with the actual threat of litigation would sign the agreement. So I think it is an appropriate action to take. It's not perfect, but it would give you some ability to protect yourself. So I would propose, and I've asked John, to put it on the next agenda as a policy amendment for your consideration.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, John, is Executive Officer's Report.
The one thing I want to talk about is the LAFCo conference. Yesterday, the notice came out that for registration for the LAFCo conference, which is the 6th through the 8th of September. And this year, it's going to cost about $1,500 a person at least to go to this. And the reason is airfares are really high right now. I went to the Southwest website yesterday. I was amazed. I used to be able to go to Europe for what they're charging to go to LA, you know. So anyway, we have enough in a budget to send one individual from the county to the conference. I won't be going because of a previous commitment, but are you going to be going to that, or?
Well, I was just looking at my calendar to see whether I could. So I will let you know.
Okay, because anyway, we do have, it's in Newport Beach. It's at the airport hotel there. Just keep that in mind, that, and we can send the notification out to all of you so you can take a look at it. But it is this year going to be expensive, and there's no telling whether or not it's going to be canceled or not. We don't know. I just know that the last time we canceled it, I had to eat it for the airfare because, they don't give you a refund. They extend it for a year. Well, if you're still in the pandemic, you just don't get it back. So, anyway, there's that. The next thing is the Hillsizer, Newcomb Ranch, Hillsizer annexation. And that's going to be on the next agenda, and we'll have this item on the next agenda also. So that's really about all I have at this time.
Thank you. Any comments or questions to John?
I just want to clarify, are we done today with this, the Newcomb Ranch annexation?
To the city, you are, but not to the Hillsizer Drainage District.
Well, we're done with the sphere, so we won't have to bring the annexation to the city back to a next meeting or not? It's done today.
Correct.
Same with the sphere.
The sphere is done today. The annexation of Newcomb Ranch to the city is done today. What's not done is the annexation of a portion of Newcomb Ranch to the Hillsizer Drainage District, 182 acres or something like that.
And then timing-wise, the certificate of whether completion or whatever, you'll be issuing that?
Yeah, it'll all come. There's a reconsideration period, and there's some items that I'm going to write you a letter and say that you need to comply with before we can record it. Normally, it's just the state board fee and a few other minor things.
Okay, so when would we expect to when would we see that?
Probably within a week, the letter. I can just email it to you and save us time.
Okay, I just thank you for the
There's
clarification.
not that much, so.
No, I just was curious.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah, and then you can take care of your piece while the 30-day period is going on. So, yeah.
Okay, next item on our agenda, any commissioner have anything to report? No, nothing. Okay, public comment. This is now open to the public for any comments that the public wants to make. No public comment. Okay, the next thing is adjournment until 2 o'clock, September the 9th, 2021. This meeting is now adjourned.